Hi friends and welcome to Eye on the Storm. I am Gilly Weed and normally joining me for this would be Anna Prosser Robinson, but she is out with work this week. So we have Deb joining me as my co-host. Hi Deb.
Hi,
How's it going?
it's going pretty well. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks.
Good.
And then also we have Erho who will be our guest, warrior player for Bob Ross Fan Club. How's it going, my friend?
Doing very well, obviously. Just got back from a big win, so.
Heck yeah. We'll be talking about that more, but for now, guys, if you are unfamiliar with the show, this is Eye on the Storm. This is our weekly podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. We bring on guests, we talk about what's happening in the game, we talk about what's happening in the community. We also try to have a little bit of a learning session. This week will be about our brand new hero, Greymane, and we'll do that in our play session later on, and then we'll follow up with the community spotlight. We're also on the Misscliks channel. Misscliks is dedicated to uplifting females in the geek and gaming scene. And so we have a lot of really cool shows that you should definitely check out, subscribe, or follow this channel to find those. You can also find everything, all past episodes of this show, as well as our other shows on youtube.com/Misscliks. But with that, let's talk a little bit about Bob Ross Fan Club. I'd love to start out, tell us a little bit about the creation of the team, which was right after BlizzCon.
Okay, so long before BlizzCon even ended, I was approached by Zuna. He said that he would be leaving Tempo Storm after BlizzCon, and he's looking to form a team. He approached me directly to become a Warrior player, and I said, okay, sounds good. I'll give it a shot. I was a free agent at the time. And then he just kind of handpicked everybody. Arthlon ended up leaving Tempo Storm too, so we used Arthlon for a while. McIntyre was, in our mind, the best free agent in the flex role, and then Kenma is obviously a good support player, so that's how that all kind of fell together.
Arthlon ended up leaving a little bit before the tournament, and then you ended up kind of trading out, getting Fan. How confident were you guys going into the tournament, having only picked him up a couple of weeks before?
So Arthlon and Fan are pretty much the same player, different personalities. They have their strengths and weaknesses, but I mean, Arthlon's a really quiet player. He kind of does his own thing in comms too, and Fan's a lot more vocal, so that kind of meshes with us better. So, long story short, we enjoy Fan better as a player.
So was there much of a ramp-up time when you first got him, or was it just like instantly got in and everything clicked?
And he's a good player. And we're all good players, so he just kind of fits in and does his own thing. The thing that we need to work on, though, is we were still working on it before Arthlon even left, was just getting our team dynamic down. But we're all very confident that the roles that we have, we're top 1 or top 2 NA in which each respective position that we play. So skill-wise, we're very confident, but working together as a team is something that we are working on continuously.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about Heroes Rising, as I try to switch over and hopefully don't break things. Nice! So proud.
Smooth.
I know, right? By the way, guys, if you have any questions for Erho or Deb or I, you can either put them in chat. We'll do our best to watch chat, but the best way to make sure that we get the questions is to tweet using the hashtag StormShow. So Heroes Rising was over the past weekend. Zoya and I casted it. It was a long event, but it was really fun, and it was a great way to see the top 10 teams of NA come together. This one event, it was a lot of fun to get to meet everybody. What was it like for you guys? I think it was your first LAN experience as a team together?
Yeah, it was. As a team, definitely our first LAN together. It was my first LAN. I think it was Mac's first LAN. Fan, Ken, and Zuna obviously have a lot of LAN experience, but yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Nerves got to me personally a little bit during the first C9, just the first set of games against C9 the first game, but after that just all kind of went away. I'm used to being in front of big crowds, so from previous jobs, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, was it interesting that you guys had to go up against Cloud9 so early?
That was just because for the tournament we used to qualify for this event, we took 4th place and we dropped out, so we had a really low seed. But after those games with C9, we felt as if we definitely had the capacity to outplay them and just play better. We just had to figure out a good draft, which we did, obviously. So that was one really good thing about our team. We're all very confident in how we play. So.
What was it like to meet the other NA teams too? Had you met anybody else really?
No, that was my first time meeting a lot of those guys in real life. So it was a lot of fun. putting a face to the name.
And before we get into talking more about the games, what were your thoughts on the venue? That's the first time I'd ever been there, and it was a really cool LAN center.
Yes, please share. I didn't get to go.
It was, in terms of LAN centers, it's probably one of the better ones I've been to. I don't know. I'd have to rate it like an 8 out of 10. It was a really cool venue.
Were there any like difficult aspects to playing there in terms of like tournament settings?
Yeah, there's a lot of audio issues with the mics on stage. We were hearing a lot of the crowd, especially through the microphones that are closest to the speakers. But that was addressed day 2 because especially on the red side, there's 2 sides. There's blue side and red side, and red side had terrible mic issues. A lot of teams are complaining about it. Other than that was only the really big issue. Also, the mic setup was really bad too. We had like the microphones around our necks. It was like, imagine playing a game, but someone's lightly choking you the entire time. It was just really awkward.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be difficult.
Yeah, it was definitely a big concern in Twitch chat, I noticed. A lot of people freaking out. Why are they wearing so many headsets? What's going on? Yeah, it must have been a hassle.
That's the kind of thing that I think can really come into play. Like, people always talk about LAN in terms of being nerve-wracking for players, but I think they also don't like think about the fact that it's just like the settings are so different, and a lot of people are really concerned about what it'll be like. You know, how's the keyboard going to be? Like, what if everything's set up strange? What if my monitor's weird, not the right height? There's a lot of stuff that goes into LANs that can be really difficult for players.
Yeah, that's kind of, it wasn't really a concern because we usually all bring our own mice and keyboards. The biggest concern for me, never being to a LAN like that before, is the computer settings. But luckily, they give us plenty of time. They give us like 5-10 minutes before like getting up there to change settings, get into try mode, and make sure all the settings are correct. And so, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it worked out well.
Nice. Well, moving into tournament experience, how are you guys feeling? You mentioned before that there were a lot of nerves that came in versus in the first set of Cloud9. Even though you guys lost 0-2, you were saying that you guys still felt pretty okay after it?
Yeah, the first game we felt that we just played really bad. The draft was okay. Well, we made a draft mistake. We should have banned Zeratul in this because they don't like Zagara, so we should have just let them take Zagara. But other than that, I mean, the second game we felt like we were winning the whole game from beginning to start. We just threw really bad at DK, and that's because we have team discipline problems, is the way we like to call it. Just not listening, realizing when we need to back up together as a team. After that game, we were fairly confident, even if we won that game, we would have won Game 3, so it just came all down to, like I said, just being disciplined and finishing out games.
Yeah, I remember that second game was like all the way until the very, very end. And afterward, I saw Dunk Train, and he like gave me a big smile. I was like, "Were you worried?" I was like, "A little bit." Seemed like you guys were losing that there. So then we didn't get to see, because we were on the main stage and you guys were on the second stage. You had a really 2-1 set versus SK Gaming, and people were talking about, "Oh, that was a really, really good set." So just from on a personal level, I want to know what happened.
We stomped them game 1. The game that we lost, we were stomping them too, but we did the same exact thing we did to C9. We threw at the core. So, and then game 3, it was a closer game, but we were never really losing it.
Okay.
I think the biggest issue too is because we were sacking our drafts against SK, who we felt was a weaker team. So we weren't drafting things that we planned on drafting, say, against C9 or against like a Tempo Storm. So we had kind of a weaker draft, but that's on purpose because we didn't want to show people what we really wanted to run until we actually played them in the sets.
Did SK surprise you, or had you guys been practicing versus them?
It didn't really surprise us. We should have 2-0'd them. They played exactly how we thought they'd play. So there's more like, oh, we lost. These are our games to lose. We should be winning them all, which we should have. But unfortunately, I think what it was is Zuna made an all-in core in the call, or the all-in core call, and we listened to it, and it just was a bad call in general.
Well, after that, it seemed to be pretty smooth sailing for a while. You guys had 2-0s versus Cognitive, Murloc Geniuses, yeah, and Blaze. So, were there any concerns there from those games?
We're very confident against Blaze. Blaze is actually a very underrated team. They give us usually very good games. Murlocs, we kind of had them figured out long before the LAN, having played them in Heroes Rising. We know what heroes they play very well on, and we just target ban those heroes, such as Kerrigan, Zagara, stuff like that. And then the series against Tempo Storm, they actually surprised us. We were pretty much crushing them in scrims, and then they came out and they were running things that were totally different than what they were running in scrims, and they gave us a new look, but we were able to adapt. They played very well game 2 when we picked Abathur. So they deserved. And then game 3 was very, very close. Could have gone either way. So we were pleasantly surprised at how well Tempo Storm played against us and against C9. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people had questions about how the new roster for Tempo Storm was going to be, and they did very well. You guys also had, I believe, the longest game of the tournament versus them, like a 29-minute game on Dragonshire.
yeah, that was the game that kind of went back and forth. We knew how to win the game. We just kept not being able to put ourselves in position to win it. But all we had to do was just kill one person on their team. That's it. Just one person had to die at that point in the game, and we would have won because of how our team comp was set up. And we managed to do that in a long, drawn-out fight. I think I caught Zagara with a stun, and her bolt was down. So, I mean, because the way it got to level 20, and we had a Task Star with Force Wall and the Mirrodin, so Force Wall kind of loses value for catches. Mid-game, we're getting good catches, then they hit level 20. So once there's bolt, it's kind of hard to catch people unless their bolt's on cooldown. So we finally got into a position where Zagara didn't have bolt up, and I was able to catch her with a stun, and she just died. So that's why it took so long to actually get a kill and get something done.
I want to backtrack a little bit versus Murlocs because you guys brought out the hammer. So it was a last pick for you guys. Was it something that you guys had been practicing at all, or was it more something that was completely reactionary because of you guys' deep hero pool and what Murlocs had drafted?
We hadn't practiced hammer at all. Zuna's just a really good hammer player in general, so we knew we could play it. It was more of a counterpick to their draft. They took triple ranged on that map for whatever reason. I think they took it because they thought they could just outrace us and out DPS by taking the 3 primary DPS that were still up out of the bans. What ended up happening is they actually kind of screwed themselves because hammer trades really, really well in the triple ranged, especially with a Tassadar. So, I don't know. And hammer does more PvE damage, like single target damage to the Immortal, than 2 of those heroes combined. So
Yeah.
they just had no way to get the hammer, basically. So it was a really good pick.
Yeah, it was. They had no way really to try to get onto the hammer, and then Zuna could just sit back the whole time and just DPS the Immortal down. It was like, okay, and Zuna's sieged up again, and that's pretty much it for this game. So after defeating Tempo, you guys had been obviously playing straight for quite a while since you were sent down to the lower bracket so far early on. How are you guys feeling? Were you feeling tired? Did you feel like you had a really good chance versus Cloud9 still? Were you like just feeling warmed up and riding the momentum? What was the team feel at that point?
I think we knew that if we lost to C9 day 1 that we'd have a long road ahead of us. But we had no idea we'd have to play almost 6 hours straight. What ended up happening is that everyone gets very tired towards the end of the LAN. Like at the day, like towards the end of the day. But the difference is that if you're up on stage playing, you're usually not tired. So we weren't tired. We were hyped up. You know, we had just got done winning 3 series almost back to back. Like we had a little break between Murlocs and Blaze, and after that we were in the zone. We're good to go. There was no, I don't know. I just think the attitude of the team basically said we're gonna win, even when we lost this first game against C9 in the finals. Like whatever, we'll win next game. We'll 3-0 them. So it was never a, oh shit, we lost type moment.
Oh, so you never even had that even after losing that first game?
No, not at all. Because we just felt like we were just a better team than C9. We're just newer than they are. Just a matter of time. So we were just really calm, cool, collective. We knew that even if we lost that game, we have a long road ahead of us in terms of other tournaments. So just confidence, really.
Even though they had the point advantage, it was technically only one game, so it must not have
Right.
had that much of a mental impact anyway. So I feel like that was probably in your favor as well.
Yeah, that was it. I looked over at Mac and said, look, if we win the next 2 games, by the third game, they're going to be so tilted, they're going to draft the worst thing possible and the game's free. And that's exactly what they did. Because we had their draft figured out, so.
So at what point did you realize that you had won? Was it earlier than like the last game, or was it some point in the last game?
So, depends on the game. The Infernal Shrine game, I knew we had it won once we hit level 21st, and we had a keep down. We had a keep down, and we hit level 21st, and we did Immortal pushing bottom. That was an easy win. Game 2, I knew we won once we were making really smart decisions, and I knew with the way we were playing the comp that we couldn't mess it up. Basically, it was just get to level 16, make good trades, out PvE them, and just get their buildings dead. And then once Abathur's 16, they're going to have so much map pressure they can just never fight us without losing their core or like a keep or something. Game 3, that was a really close game. We were losing pretty hard early game because we just played it really bad. And then we pretty much knew we had it won when Fan made the blink stun onto Arthlon and we got the free kill on him. After that, it was just a matter of time. Then I got a kill on the K1 Pro bottom by the Shrine, which was a delayed kill, which means that he was dead while we had the Dragonite, and that was pretty much game. I knew we had the game won as soon as we kept the Dragonite, and K1 was still dead for like 40 seconds.
How much of a boost was it to have, Fan who could give you some insight into the team as well?
That helped us a lot, because we know that C9 likes to play a lot of they have their comfort picks, and C9 or Fan knows their comfort picks more than anyone else. So he told us when they draft it and how they draft it, so we're able to work around that. We were able to take away Zeratul early. Like banning Falstad, taking Zeratul away early was kind of their crutch picks, and they have iDream's pretty much their carry player. He needs to feel like he's carrying, which on one of the heroes he plays, like Sonya, Zeratul. We just made those picks either a really bad pick for them to take, or we just took it ourselves or banned it.
So, like, now looking back at the tournament, and now that you guys have that experience, a lot more games played too, what heroes and compositions do you feel are best for your team, as well as, like, favorite maps?
We don't know yet. We played so many different. We don't even have a good team identity. We're known for playing very aggressive. That's because that's easier for a newer team to play, and it's kind of, especially in this meta too, if you can get really aggressive and get one kill and then reset your cooldowns, it's like you just won the objective for free. But we can play anything. Just like, for example, the Leo Abathur Falstad comp we played in Blackhearts. We can play that too. We just don't know what we like the best yet because we have so little time playing together.
And about maps, not sure on that either.
Oh, maps. Maps, it's mostly, I think we like Sky Temple and then Infernal Shrine, Sky Temple are the two favorite maps that we like to play.
Let's see. Okay, so last thing I have
Oh,
about...
Battlefield of Eternity too.
Oh, yeah? Okay. I noticed you guys play Sky Temple a lot, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of teams are starting to really enjoy the two Diablo maps, Battlefield and Infernal Shrines as well. So in terms of like the current meta, because we didn't actually have a true patch, we just had Greymane added. Do you think it serves your team like particularly well, and that a change could hurt your team, or do you think that you guys are going to be pretty adaptable to changes in the meta as balance patches come out?
Everyone on our team has been playing the game since pretty much alpha, and we've all stayed top competitive players, so I'm pretty sure we're very adaptable. I mean, there are some players in the scene that have those 4 heroes they'll play no matter what, even when they're nerfed. We're not those players, so I'm pretty confident that if, let's say, the meta switched to sustain damage, like double healer, we've got people that can play support, like 2 people that can play supports,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be okay.
And then my final question about the weekend was like general thoughts on NA as a scene, having gotten to play against a lot of the teams. You guys got to play against a lot of the teams. What are your thoughts?
NA as a whole, in terms of competition, there's a lot of cool people that play it in NA. And in terms of competition, it was nice to see Tempo Storm able to take games off of us and C9. So I'm excited to see how well they'll do in the future. There's a lot of roster swaps happening. I'm glad this is all happening now. I personally feel that this should have happened a long time ago. In esports, the best way to deal with losses or consistent mediocre results is just to change what your team's doing in terms of roster. So I'm glad that a lot of players in the scene are starting to realize, like, okay, we got to cut the fat. We got to take our better players and just get with other players. Otherwise, we'll never be able to compete. I'm really excited that it's starting to happen now. And I'm pretty excited for this year of competition in the NA. Hopefully, we'll be able to compete with Korea and China because they're looking really strong. We have a lot of catching up to do.
Do you have...
Which is why, like, C9 and, like, once they're back from China, we're going to be scrimming a lot together. Like, we want to make sure that, you know, NA's on top of its game for the global competition, so...
Yeah, that's very similar to what happened before BlizzCon, too. We had, once we knew Tempo Storm and Cloud9 were going, there was a lot of scrimming to make sure that NA was the best. And they were. Do you have, like, a favorite series or favorite game from the weekend for you guys?
My favorite game... I'd say the Black Arts Bay game against C9. I don't know. That was like, it's like we're operating on a totally different level. No one made any huge mistakes, so it's just we punished their mistakes perfectly, and I don't know. Everything was just clicking.
Deb, do you have a favorite game or series?
Do I have a favorite game? I don't know. I really liked that Black Hearts game with
Yeah.
Abathar. I thought that was really entertaining. It was really tough to watch that series though. So,
Why's that?
well, I mean, C9 was my team for BlizzCon, but
Yeah.
as I remember back when they were kind of seeming like the underdog, so it was just, you know, it's like the home team pride, and then they're the top dogs, and then it's kind of interesting to see another underdog team, like sort of, well, underdog for now, just because you guys are so new or whatever. But yeah, it was kind of cool. Great for storylines, so that'll be nice to see. And it's very...
love an underdog story.
Yes, that's true. And I think it's very interesting to see that even just swapping some players around, like you were mentioning, cutting the fat, but even just swapping them to different teams seems to be working out for each team so far.
Well, that's just esports. I mean, I was really surprised that wasn't happening already. It happens in every other esports scene. I mean, players switch teams, players get dropped all the time. I'm just, like I said, I'm just glad it's happening now. And this scene's starting to evolve. It's already been happening in Europe, and it's been happening in China and Korea for a while. And it was just so far behind because I think they're kind of stuck on this buddy system thing. But I think they're starting to realize now that we can't all play with our friends all the time if we want to seriously compete for money. So it's not the way we're. Unfortunately, I wish it was different, but that's just the way it is. Kind of a cutthroat industry, if you're a player at least.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down also to just newness, too, for everybody. Like getting used to how it's going to work and the idea of that it's okay to have roster swaps and that it has to happen. Deb, do we have any questions about like the tournament or Bob Ross Fan Club before we move on to talking about Greymane?
Looked like we only had that one on Twitter.
Okay.
They wanted to know about sponsor talks that you guys might have had.
You think you can hint?
If you can give us anything.
I can't really hint. I mean, it'll be a big name brand, but I can't really say. We have a lot of offers. That's the only thing I can say. We have a lot of things to discuss.
That's to be expected, right? A huge win like that. You should hopefully have a few.
Yeah, we won't disappoint though. It'll be a big recognizable name that everyone can get behind. So we're pretty excited. Hopefully you guys are too.
Awesome. Well, congrats, because that is very well deserved. You guys played super well this weekend, and especially, like you said, for people who hadn't played at LANs, learning to adapt to that environment and playing a very long days, especially the second day. Oh my gosh, you guys had to play for so long. That's generally what happens to that lower bracket team that comes back, is they really have to fight their way back. So it was really cool to see that you guys were able to do that.
Yeah, it was kind of exhausting, but in the end worth it. So
I'm right there with you. It was too
but you
long
had to
days.
cast. I don't know. You had to cast all of the games, so
My
I know.
voice
I
is
heard
still
Zoya
going
said he was like super tilted towards the end of one day. Everybody heard him say it actually.
Everybody heard that one. Yeah. Did you hear "Stay Tight"?
I was standing right there when he said it. It didn't really.
That was your
It was-
interview?
That was my interview. I didn't. I don't know. He just kind of closed out the interview, and I just walked off the stage and didn't think anything of it. And then everyone's like, because when you log into Battle.net when you're up on the stage, everyone's like messaging me, "Are you staying tight?" I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm trying to.
Deb, did you have any questions about any of the games?
No, I think we covered everything that I had.
Okay, cool. Well, let's switch over to Greymane then, our new hero, and a little bit of an exciting announcement. Next week we are going to have Eric Hagman from Blizzard on, so we'll be talking more about the development of Greymane. So make sure that you guys start thinking about your questions now for that, because it's going to be awesome to get to hear about that. But Greymane is a very interesting hero. He is ranged mostly, but has a lot of melee attacks too, and you can switch back and forth. But he's pretty squishy, so you really have to, watch when you're doing that. I was hoping this had his kit on it. It kind of does. It has Gildan Cocktail, which is like a ranged ability, and then when you are in Worgen form, then it's a slash and kind of a leap forward. And then you have, I forget the name of this one, I haven't learned them all just yet, but where you can up your attack speed, and then you can, as long as you're keeping it going, then it continues going, so as long as you're attacking. And then you have Dark Flight, where you can jump and turn into a Worgen, or similarly, I think it's Disengage, where you roll back and turn back into a human form. And then Go for the Throat is a heroic ability that turns you into a Worgen, and you go and you jump on a person and deal a lot of damage. And then Mark for the Kill is you mark somebody, and then they are more vulnerable, and then I think you can activate again to turn into a Worgen and attack them. You got almost all of them, guys. You just came out. I feel very proud. What do you think so far, Erho? Have you been playing him very much?
You told me today that you wanted me to play him on the show, so I played him all day. Based on what my team is telling me, what I'm hearing from every other pro players, that he's strong, but he's not too strong. Basically, he's like low B tier, maybe C tier.
Okay.
If you think about what he does, in the current meta at least, what he does is he does a lot of damage. He's got like really strong execute, but he doesn't provide any control. He doesn't have very good sustain. So, I mean, he's nowhere near comparable to KT, nor Jaina. No utility, obviously. So, he's not as strong as Raynor, obviously, in my opinion, because Raynor can at least survive.
Right.
Greymane feels very, very squishy for what he does and the damage he puts out. You can't really compare him to, say, I guess he's most comparable to maybe a Vala, but then again, Vala brings Frost Shot, so once again, no utility. So I'd say like low B tier, high C tier. Kind of on the same wavelength of terms of Vala.
And Vala has a vault, but she's generally like at range when she needs to use it. He has one too, but it's only when you are coming out of Worgen form, so you're already up close, and then it's kind of it's basically the same type of thing as a vault, but it really just puts you back at range, but you're probably still dead.
Yeah, it just puts you at Vala's starting range.
Yeah.
Just awkward. I mean, in like a top tier game, I can only speak of what I've noticed in like higher MMR games against good people. I mean, you can never really go wolf form unless it's in a small skirmish, or if you know it's super safe too. I guess in that regard, he's a higher skill cap, but if you ever jump in the wolf form, you're very vulnerable for 6 seconds, and you're an easy kill. I think the only time you should really jump in the wolf form is to execute someone with your one ult. I forget the name of it. It's like a
yes. Go for the throat.
So you can like E into them, and then you can use Go for the Throat, get the reset, and then try to get out that way. Other than that, I don't think Wolf Form is super valuable. I mean, Wolf Form is better at wave clearing than the human form, but in a team fight, you want to remain human form for the most part until you can safely execute someone.
Yeah, that generally seems to be the advice that I've been getting with him too, and what I've noticed with playing with him is he's just so squishy that yes, he gets, I believe, more damage when he's in Worgen form, but it's just not worth it unless you know that you're going to be able to get the execution, because he's he has like no self-sustain and so vulnerable, and especially where there's, stun locking is kind of the name of the game right now and has been. That's just like, it's just going to take him out so fast.
Right. I think one thing that triggers me too is that when you mount up, it puts you back in the human form. I wish I could mount up and stay in wolf form so that I had an escape, because I could just like mount up, get into the fight, and then have an escape to get out. But I have to constantly, and it also puts your E on cooldown when you mount up too. So it's just really awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people have actually had that complaint that they want to be able to mount up, kind of like Diablo style maybe, where you just run faster.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you have to go back into human form to mount up, because that your only escape requires you to be in Worgen form in the first place, so you want to have the E up. It's pretty strange.
Yeah, I mean, in WoW itself, I'm pretty sure when you're a Worgen, you can just run in Worgen form anyway. So lore-wise, it didn't make a lot of sense unless it was an engineering thing. Maybe they had difficulties with design, or they thought it was more balanced that way, that it was, I don't know, not right to have you be able to just jump back and disengage out of the fight immediately after dismounting. It feels a little awkward, but I guess Kent Eric might be able to shed some light on that next week.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. As well as why you can disengage anywhere, but you have to dark flight on a specific target. Because having that as an escape might have been nice too, like an escape either way, regardless of what you were in, what form you were in. All right, so we have the overview. We talked about probably playing him mostly ranged and then really just using melee to execute. In it playing, have you noticed any heroes that he potentially can synergize with pretty well?
I don't know, because he doesn't really provide any crowd control for himself or anyone else. No, he needs to fill one of the very valuable ranged assassin roles on the team. He's not quite strong enough to fulfill a melee assassin role, so not really. I think if you have good sustain damage and you just need something to kind of execute someone, he's an option. But like I said, I just think there's better options than him right now.
What about counters for him?
Monk, obviously, or Rhaegar. Anything that can keep someone that's low alive. Because that's basically the only thing he really does well, is he's got the execute, which is a unique ability in this game. So I don't think he does anything else particularly well other than that execute skill. So.
What do you think of his marked for the kill heroic? The fact that it's the same vulnerability as Tyranda's trait?
It doesn't do that enough damage to justify taking it. I mean, it's cool that it's a vulnerability, but if you compare it to Tyrande, number one, it's an alt, and Tyrande has it as a passive. But if you look at how Tyrande works, usually when you stun someone, they're going to be stunned and marked, and that usually results in much more damage being taken. But when you use that ult, they don't get slow, they just take a little bit of damage and they're vulnerable. And it's on a 60-second cooldown compared to, a 12-second cooldown if you talented on Tyrande, so...
And it's a skill shot.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that ult, so...
Seems like most people are playing Mark. Go for the throat.
Yeah.
Got it. We're good. Deb, have you been playing much Greymane?
Not very much. I played him a couple times the other day when we played together, and that was it. So
I'm dying a lot when I play him.
Yeah, his positioning is very important.
He's definitely a high skill cap hero, the way you need to play him, so to be effective with him. I think what he needs, though, would make him pretty good, that if he had a baseline slow on his Q, his cocktail, maybe a 20% slow, and then when he's in wolf form, if the units he hits heals him with his Q, that would be good. And he could maybe have talents that would increase or change the way that works.
Yeah.
He needs something. He's just missing something. I think they're afraid to add more CC into the game, though, like slows and stuff. If you've noticed, the last couple of heroes they've put out don't really have a whole bunch of it, if not none at all. And I think that's because they've already got a lot of strong CC heroes in the game now, so... Either way, somewhat disappointed with Greymane, but we'll see what they do when they rebalance the game. Maybe stuns will become very weak. They'll reduce the stun timers and reduce the burst factor in the game, and then all of a sudden heroes like Greymane are really good because sustained damage and the execute becomes a lot more valuable. So you never know.
Yeah, it seems like something is going to probably change toward that, because we've gotten to the point where the same, at least over here, so many, like 12 heroes keep getting picked. And it seems like it's gotten pretty difficult for the new heroes to really gain much traction, like Artanis,
Yeah.
and competitive, as well as Lunara.
Oh, Lunara's so bad. She needs so much help. Poor Lunara.
Lunara.
I heard there was an accidental Lunara draft. I missed it, but I heard about it.
Did you
Yeah,
see,
Sinan
did you see the
accidentally
Maybe
took it.
Dunk's face, perhaps,
Did
having
you get
something
to see
do
the
that?
GIF? Did you see
No, I didn't.
He's
I didn't
like,
see.
oh, you can't see my camera. Yeah, he just like, the moment, you can see the moment that it comes up because he just like whips his head around and is like yelling for the admin. King Caffeine's just sitting there laughing, and then Arthelon like looks over and immediately looks away like, oh god, I'm gonna have to play this, aren't I?
Oh no. Oh
It
no.
was so good.
That's funny.
But no, something like timed out with the draft. I think that was right around the time that there was the long break. So I think it was like internet issues kind of caused the the draft to like lag for a second, and so they couldn't lock in because it was right down to the wire.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So viability and competitive heroes, you mentioned like tier 2 or 3, you'd say, for Greymane?
Low tier 2, high tier 3. I mean, he's not as bad as, say, like an Artanis. I mean, he does enough damage to justifiably pick him if you need damage, but I don't know. Like I said, I'd put him on the same tier level as, like, Bala, and you can take Bala in a lot of situations. So there are times you could definitely take Greymane.
Any ideas for those times? Just like maybe if you're down to damage or...
The only time I'd consider taking her is if there were no other options available, like KT, Jaina, Raynor, Falstad, Zagara. They all weren't available, then I'd consider taking Greymane as a choice.
Okay.
So
Because
maybe
chances are they're either banned or you already have the best ones. All you need is just something that can just dish out some damage to kill people.
So maybe in the event that the scene grows to a point where we have some more bans, perhaps have
Yeah.
less top tier picks available.
Right. I mean, hopefully they readjust this stun burst meta thing that people are complaining about. Then I could see Greymane getting a bit stronger, but we never know. Because if you took away some of the KT's damage and his potential stun, he becomes a lot weaker. And then a hero like Greymane would become a lot stronger because he has way more single target damage.
I'm excited to see some go for the throat versus like Palms. If he eventually gets out there, I think that would be really fun to try to cast. Okay, so what did you have, like, either of you, by the way, thoughts on the fact that there wasn't like an actual balance patch along with this? I really thought there was going to be one. I was a bit sad.
I
Go
certainly
ahead.
expected one. I certainly expected one with Tyrande, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. Erho?
So to my knowledge, Blizzard has a philosophy in how they do balances, and they usually do it every couple of months. And the reason why for Heroes of the Storm at least, I know they're not going to drop a huge balance patch until the Season 1 starts. And I think they're going to coincide. That would be my guess. And I think internally they already have a lot of this stuff. They have good ideas for it and what they want to do. They just have yet to kind of introduce that to the players. And if there are balance patches, like I said, they're going to do big ones, and they're going to do it to coincide with something big in the game, like Season 1 starting, or, I don't know, mid-Season 1 or something. You know what I mean? They don't ever put out a big patch without having big content to coincide with it.
Are you
In terms of
excited
count.
for a potential start to Season 1?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll announce the tournament schedule for this year and the prize money involved, so a lot of us are super excited.
Well, on that note, what types of changes are you guys looking for, or hoping for with the next balance patch? You already mentioned like stun and burst. Anything specific or else besides that?
I can't speak for the rest of my team, but for me, I just want to see Tyrande nerfed. I think she's the biggest problem. She has too many good talents, and her kit's just too good. I think the Shadowstock change that made her able to do all that healing with Shadowstock was a bad one. I think with the scaling changes too, the mark on Tyrande needs to be reduced to about 15% rather than 25%, and the cooldown needs to be brought up to about 15 seconds with the talent and maybe like 25 seconds without the talent. So it's a bit too strong. And then the rest of the stuns, I would like to maybe see diminishing returns in the game, as weird as that sounds. I think that's the easiest solution in my mind for, if you don't know what diminishing returns is basically if you're stunned and your next stun will be, the next stun that hits you after that within 3 seconds will be less effective or root. So if you're stunned, the next stun that would, let's say you're stunned for 1 second, and then the next stun that gets thrown at you is like 1.5 seconds long, it would only be 1 second long because, just reduces the effectiveness of every stun after that. Until eventually you become immune. Because right now you can get stunned for a total of 3 seconds and you'll just die.
Yeah. And that's no fun, especially when you're playing Greymane.
No, it's not fun for anyone. Like there's so much burst and so much stun in the game. You can actually 100-0 Mirrodin, which is saying a lot.
Deb, any thoughts on what you'd like to see?
Just the Tyrande, because I feel like she was banned out way too much. It just makes the ban's not exciting because you're only really getting one ban.
All but 2 games, 2 or 3.
Yeah, that percentage is too damn high. So, and I would like to see some of the newer heroes more playable. Definitely, I liked Lunara's playstyle a lot. I like that she's super punished for positioning. I'm not a huge fan of that leap ult, but that's just me.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, a lot of people like it because it's right. It's
cute.
Yeah, it's cool. It is cute. But I don't know. I'm always excited about new heroes and then really sad when I don't see them in competitive. So I would love to see the meta shift enough that we're seeing more of the new style and maybe less like Johanna, Leoric, Muradin. I think we're kind of tired of that. I don't know. At least I am. It's kind of boring. It's like, oh, okay, well, Johanna lived again. Like, what are you gonna do? So.
I know that Dustin Browder tweeted about that they're looking at Tyrande. I also would love to see more of the damage, especially the highest skill cap damage dealers start to get in. And I really want to see more Artanis. And I hope that eventually becomes something that will happen because I think that he is super fun and like his phase prism and stuff would just be so much fun to cast. It's kind of
casting,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like old school hooks, right? Like Stitches is one of my favorite heroes to cast because hooks are freaking exciting.
Yeah, they're game changing. So
you love
I used
Stitches?
to play a lot of Stitches. If you ask anyone that plays this game, I'm pretty well known for my Stitches. It's kind of sad to see him out of the meta. And Anub'arak. I played a really good Anub'arak back in the day, but I think Anub'arak's a good example. Anub'arak has a hero. He's the hero that has a lot of stun, but the rest of he's so squishy and he's so weak otherwise. Like he's just not viable. I hope that Blizzard doesn't do that to like Mirrodin and ETC and just make them so weak, even though they're saving their stuns, that they're just not playable. They're like Anub'arak version 2 and Anub'arak version 3. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah. Bring everyone up instead of like bringing the ones who are up down. It's funny too because when ETC started coming in, I was like, oh my god, ETC guys, we haven't seen him in forever, yay, we can have him in every single game. Now I'm like, if I get one more ETC, I'm gonna lose it.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. Something will trend in and then it will become so popular that I'm just like, okay guys, anything else? Do we have I was calling for like anything. It's like, I bet there's going to be a Diablo this game, just hoping. We had a couple. All right, well, I think that's about it for all of the questions I had. Do we have any final questions before we move into our play session?
I don't have any, and I haven't seen...
You guys alive out there? I'm not watching chat, so hi.
They seem to be entertaining each other.
Good. Good to hear.
I don't see a lot of question marks, though.
Okay. Well... You have
Except about the cutting the fat comment. So that was the last one I saw.
All right.
They were confused.
Oh, okay. Well, we are going to get into the gameplay session, guys. Because I'm running this, I'm not as swift as Anna when it comes to switching over to that session. So I am going to have to bring the stream down really fast. Please, no panic. But if you need to, you can throw some panic baskets in the chat if that makes you feel better. But we will be back for gameplay session. We're going to have Erho play Greymane, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys soon.